Here's what we have. We have an old school radio segment, Ceruti's idea. This is what I loved about working with Ceruti, is he could have 9 ideas I said no to, and he'd come back even stronger with his 10th. And it's just this is what I like about this. He's going to propose 2 players, NBA, younger guys. Who would you rather have next 5 years? And we've done versions of this kind of stuff before, but I love the list that you have, because there's so many times, like when we started doing how many rings, we did over-under rings for NBA players the rest of their career, and you kind of just throwing a half ring on like, hey, do you think this guy's ever going to win a ring? And in the moment, you could feel like you're so right about it with such conviction. And then a year later, you're like, I can't believe I said that. So there's definitely a chance for I can't believe I said that answers to these. So we'll check back in on them for a while. But you have the list. I didn't want to do any research. I just wanted to go all gut feel, but I couldn't help myself. So I have a few numbers here or there on some of these, but I want to go quickly with them. So what do we have?
Yeah, no, this is some of them I have like some stats too, but it's mostly just kind of like a vibe check. Like, who do I feel like I'd want, and that's fine. I think that's fine sometimes. Like, this is straight.
Is that it? Is it NBA 5-year projection vibe check?
Vibe check, yeah.
Okay, I like it. I like it.
Right,
you're
so
going to give me
10.
your answer too, right? You're going to give me yours?
Yeah, I'll give you quickly mine after you do. But mostly I'm just throwing these at you because I just kind of find them interesting. Like, some of them aren't like obvious. Actually, most of them are really hard. I'm going to start with one that I think is really, really hard. Might be the toughest one. Maybe it's easy. Some of you guys at home are going to be like, this is stupid. But I love this one. Jayson Tatum, Devin Booker, next 5 years.
Okay, I'm going to say this once. The only thing I don't like about this exercise is that it forces me to be a little negative about players that I like. All right. That's always the problem whenever we're doing these things. So whoever I don't pick, I have to like point out reasons why I'm not picking that person. I went into this thinking I was going to take Booker, but I don't think I am. I'm going to take Tatum. I mean, Tatum still only 19 years old, which is a joke. He's 23. Booker's 25. Who do you think has a higher shooting percentage for his career from 3? I bet you 900 out of 1,000 people, whatever, I'm just joking. There's no way people are going to get this one right. Tatum's 38% for 3 from his career. Booker's at 35. I would guarantee you 90% of people would get that wrong if you asked NBA fans who has a better career shooting percentage from 3.
I agree. Booker's down this year pretty bad, too. I mean, but Booker, I guess, is more of a mid-range dude. Not that Tatum can't do that, but I think you're right. Most people would be surprised by that because they think Booker's like the pure shooter scorer.
Yeah, Booker, I think it's tailed off a bit because he was actually tearing it up the beginning of the year. The thing that I was thinking about with Booker, though, as we're going to see again here with Chris Paul out, is that Booker can initiate the offense. Not that those teams are winning a ton. The rebounding numbers are dramatically in Tatum's favor. Free throw attempts last couple of years are about the same, 5 or 6, which is a big part of their scoring. Booker's mid-range, though, is special, so you can't just focus on that part of it. And I would say, look, is Tatum, when the Celtics aren't good, then it turns into, is Tatum really that guy? And I think the same stuff was happening for Booker when Phoenix wasn't good, which is all before Chris Paul got there. I think the tiebreaker for this one is that Booker by himself, like the first time he ever made the playoffs was last year. That was in his 6th season. Tatum has 50 career playoff games. You could say East versus West. Okay, that's fine. I do think it's close, but I still think there is this hope, this potential ceiling for Tatum that puts him a little higher, and that's why I think he's the choice.
Same exact logic as you. I went in going, I think I like watching Booker more than I like watching Tatum, but the more I'm like, all right, Tatum's better defensively. I think they're similar playmakers. Booker might be a little bit better.
I think Booker's a little better.
Yeah, but I get 6'8" Tatum. He's younger. And then I thought about it. I'm like, if Jayson Tatum had Chris Paul on his team, we'd be saying all the same stuff that we love about Devin Booker about Jayson Tatum. And like, I know Tatum had some of that, like, is he doing too much Kobe vibes and taking too many, contested twos, bad shots, and he kind of slips into that. But I still think I get this 6'8" guy who's a great shooter and can be a really good defender as well. I kind of lean, it's close, but I lean Tatum too, and I'm pretty surprised by that.
I do think it's close, but I really, as I talk myself through it and listen to you, I still think it's the right answer. All right, next one.
Anthony Davis versus Karl-Anthony Towns.
I hate this one because prior to this year,
I
would have just said, why are you going to do that? Do you have any other dumb ones that don't need any discussion whatsoever? Anthony Davis is 29 in March. Cat's still only 26. The other stupid thing about this exercise and going through and double checking everyone's ages, and it's kind of the Dwight Howard simps out there who are just like, what are you guys up to? Like, oh, if you don't think he's top 75, you don't think he's a Hall of Famer, whatever. Like, again, Dwight entered his 18. There's so many guys from this generation that are going to have these absurd longevity numbers, not only because they're going to play longer, but because they came in, so much younger than some of these other dudes in the past. So that's part of it. And look, Dwight was a really formidable guy for, I would say, the first half of his career. It's just hard for me to kind of look at Dwight the same way that others do when I'm like, the second half of his career is a guy that nobody wanted on their team, on multiple teams. So, all right, enough Dwight bashing. All right. AD last played in 70 games in 17-18. The last 2 seasons, Anthony Davis has played in 73 games total. The shooting numbers for 3 are not close. Karl-Anthony Towns, as we saw, not just the 3-point contest, but that guy can light it up from 3. But I think prior to this year, with Minnesota's turnaround, like this is the best possible chance Towns has as being the option here because of his turnaround and Davis being hurt again. But you'd have to be writing off ever seeing a prime Davis again. And maybe this is it. Maybe this is where we look at his stat line, Ceruti, and you go, hey, we should have seen it coming. Less games. Isn't moving as well. The worst efficiency we've ever seen of his career. He's settling more, which is a terrible sign for players as they get. And he's not even that old, but when you start to settle, it means you just don't have the same, just twitch to try to get in there. Defensively, this would have never been a conversation. I think there's a lot of times, too, where people looked at Towns and were like, oh, what's this guy's personality? Like, is this guy kind of, like, I know he can shoot, but is he kind of like, does he have a losing approach to basketball? But Minnesota's pretty good this year. They are. I'm still, despite all that, going to stick to my AD guns.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is the closest it's ever. Some people would say I'm nuts for even suggesting that. That's fine. But this is in the moment, which I always say we're really bad in the moment. In the moment, this is the best chance Towns has ever had of being the right answer here. And I'm not going to fall for it. So that's my stubbornness.
I'm not surprised by that because that's your guy, but I don't think it's ridiculous to say that we've seen the best of Anthony Davis. I don't. He doesn't look right. His body looks bulky and weird. Bill's been on this for a while. Like, it just doesn't look good anymore. And I kind of think it's almost like he wants to be Cat, like his game. Like, he's perimeter oriented now. Like, he doesn't do all the things that we loved about him originally when he was in New Orleans and then early on with the Lakers. And I think the thing that just tips it to Cat for me is the age thing. Like, he's 29, so I get him when he's 34. What's AD going to look like when he's 34 if he's getting hurt every year now? So, and I get Cat. I'm worried about the defensive stuff, but he's shooting 40% from 3. I'm going to go with Cat. I got to disagree with you here.
All right. When you say I'm getting Anthony Davis at 34, I lose the argument. Okay. So
you're saying I'll take the next couple years and I'll eat the last 2 or so.
Right.
Okay.
Or I'll just take the L on that one because when you're projecting
like
it out,
contracts, like you signed a 13-year contract and you're like, yeah, we're probably gonna eat the last 6 of those, but the first 7 are going to be great.
AD at 34, I just lost. Ceruti just bashed my head in against a dumpster in the alley. All right. Next one. By the way, the shooting numbers for AD, and they're bad from 3, but the reason we loved him is that he could spot it up, and that long 2 for him actually used to be a massive
It used
weapon.
to be.
Right.
But isn't he's like the worst in the league at it now. So
I just don't believe that he will now. By the way, did you see the numbers when he came back and did play?
What? No.
When he was back with LA before he turned his ankle again?
Oh, yeah.
Right,
I mean,
right.
he was getting there. He was getting there, yeah.
Getting there? He was lighting it up. Now, to be fair to the box score guy, there were moments where it still didn't necessarily look right, and they weren't exactly like lighting everyone up all of a sudden, but he himself looked like he was ready to go, and I thought we were going to have a nice stretch from him. So
when LeBron wants to trade him this summer, we'll know everything.
You're big on that.
Right.
You're big on that. Stephen A. went on First Take and said that they should look into trading him, which I think you are suggesting that Team LeBron would move him in a second if they thought it improved the Lakers' chances next year. Because I think you feel like that's a little bit more real than just a TV segment. Am I reading you right?
Minnesota, if you called Minnesota and the Lakers said, "Hey, we'll do AD for Cat straight up," if I'm the Lakers, I say yes. It depends who you get. I'm just saying I'm not saying I would not trade Anthony Davis. It depends who you get back, but I don't think that's a ridiculous thing for Team LeBron to be like, I don't know, man, this guy. Again, maybe they're more worried like I am about just kind of him long term and never being the guy that he was again. But I hope it doesn't happen. I really do, because I mean, he's one of the probably my 5 favorite players I've watched over the last decade or so when he's right. But I don't know, man. His body just doesn't look great.
Do you imagine? Can you imagine Clutch telling AD, be like, "Hey, here's the deal. You're going to go to the Timberwolves, and we're going to get Towns. You're gonna be the one now. So that's cool for you.
Yeah, all the stuff that you've learned from LeBron, you could take to this franchise.
Yeah, like this is more about you. It's not helping LeBron. It's going to be great. The Mall is sick. The Twins do more with less. The Central AL Central.
Anthony Edwards. You get to play with him.
It's not crazy competitive in the AL Central. You never know. So you'll have a baseball team that you can root for. All right, next one. I got to go quicker. I'm going.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell.
I think this is another one where the career shooting. Do you know who's a better 3-point shooter for his career?
Just by you saying this, it's got to be Mitchell, right? Yeah,
it is Mitchell. I'm going to go Mitchell. I am going to go Mitchell, and I don't want to turn it into a negative Trae Young thing, but I just think Mitchell has personality-wise. I love both of these guys.
Yep.
Minus the complaining from Trae in the game that drives me crazy, but there's what I factor in any play, there's a fuck you in both of these players in their game that I love. Mitchell's been missing a few more games, but I think the fact I'm getting a little bit more size, and I actually think he is a better shooter from outside. And some of the playoff stuff, Trae had a great playoff run last year. They're both averaging like close to 30 when you look at the playoff career numbers and this kind of stuff. But Donovan shot it better in the playoffs from three than Trae has. And I'm not worried about having a very undersized guard getting just hunted defensively the way Trae would be. So I bet more people would say Trae. I think it's Mitchell for me.
I'm going to say Trae only because I hear you on the Mitchell being a better shooter, but it's Trae Young. I'm okay with his shooting abilities, and he's kind of he's kind of a significantly better playmaker too. I'm not saying Donovan's not a good playmaker, but Trae is like an elite playmaker in the league. And I guess I look at it like last year's playoffs where he scared the shit out of a bunch of teams, beat the Knicks, obviously won the second round series as well. And, there were some people thinking, are the Hawks going to be in the finals? Like, that's what I think Trae Young can do. And I don't love all assets of Trae Young's game, but I do think he scares the shit out of me when it's right, probably more than Donovan Mitchell does, even though Donovan might be a little bit more of a consistent player. So I'm going like upside here, and that Trae could single-handedly, if he gets hot, take you to a finals. I'm not sure Donovan can do that. Plus, Donovan's playing on a much better team, much better organization. I think you have to take that into account. So I lean slightly Trae.
That Utah-Denver series is an all-timer, and it should not be forgotten, and it shouldn't be overshadowed by Trae's run last year, even though Mitchell didn't get out of that round, which is obviously super disappointing considering what happened against Denver. But I would feel better about everything you said if Atlanta wasn't a 10 seed right now.
Yep. No, you're right.
So
you're right. But they've got problems. I don't think that's a Trae thing. And then your thing about, he hasn't necessarily been getting the foul calls that he has in the past. That does impact like kind of the thing too. Although it's coming back now. You're right. It's like that come full circle.
That lasted like 6 weeks, dude. They tried.
But if he's not getting those calls, then this is a drastically different conversation. I'd probably take Mitchell.
No, look, Trae's, let's see, he's at 7. So maybe the overall, last year was absurd. Yeah, the last 2 years he was at 9. But if I go game log here, I bet you. I
think I like watching Donovan better. I'll just say that. But I would take Trae.
The anti-Donovan argument would be like, hey, he can get a little Russell Westbrook-y light in some of those late moments where he forces it. And, if you say, hey, I like Trae and I like his playmaking, that he's going to, the lobs and the floaters and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but I'm just going to go Mitchell because I always am afraid when I have a really, really small guard at the point of attack defensively. So go ahead. Next one.
All right, next one. Ben Simmons versus Scottie Barnes.
Scottie Barnes.
Same. That it? We're good. Next.
That's it. I actually even think Simmons is a little overrated defensively. Now, not that he's a bad defensive player, but I think Barnes has every bit of a chance to be as good, if not a little bit better defensively than Simmons does. And already we've seen more comfort offensively. And I have him for, the Simmons thing. I'll happily be wrong about this if Simmons proves that, like right now I'm worried about him in a playoff series, even with the Nets, even though he's not going to have as much pressure on him. So yeah, Scottie Barnes, didn't have to think about that one as much. And when I say Simmons is overrated defensively, just hear me out here. I think he's still a really good defensive player, but I think we talk about player in the league. I think we talk about him in a way that it's like, are we sure he's that? And I think Barnes actually could be those things. So go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I just quickly, I think Simmons is probably more talented than Scottie, but by all accounts, Scottie has like an elite attitude. I'll take that every day. Jokic versus Embiid. This is the one. I mean, this isn't like original or anything, but
I
want to know what you think.
I hate it because I don't want to answer it. I don't. The only thing that would separate it, well, there's two things that could separate it. I absolutely love what these two guys have done. I don't think you should be dismissive of the other one when you're arguing one of them for MVP, because that's how close I think it is. That's how often I'll change my mind. So I still don't have a definitive answer. Embiid's defense, I think it's easy to say I'll put that one over the edge. But if you're talking the next 5 years, I just know that Joker's going to be healthy. The likelihood of him being healthy and clean the next 5 years versus Embiid, I don't think is really much of a debate. So I'll take Jokic. And I just think there's a playmaking aspect to Jokic that you could plug a lot of different things around, where I'm excited to see Embiid with some spacing from the point of attack. Instead of having Seth Curry have to set up their offense or whatever, like Harden, even if I don't love all of the Harden stuff, I still think there's plenty there that we'd like with Embiid. So I'm excited to see what that likes. But I think projecting out 5 years, I'll go Jokic.
You're not worried about Jokic's late game minutes, crunch time minutes in the All-Star game?
I'm not.
Just leave it at that. I went with Embiid just because I think when he's on, he's the best. He could be the best player in the league. Jokic is more consistent, but Embiid, like, legitimately is probably the best player in the league when everything's going for him.
I think we felt about.
I could be burned by that, but
right. I think we felt that way about Embiid in the past. In other seasons when it wasn't that he was a clear-cut MVP favorite or co-favorite. Because there are nights where you watch Embiid and you go, is anybody actually better than this guy? The problem is you have to sustain it for, 1 or 2 full seasons.
Guys.
Right.
Both guys, like, I love both their attitudes. They're different. Like, Embiid's like the fuck you, like, kind of like outward guy talking shit to everybody. And Jokic is like the guy who kind of silently talks shit through his play, but also through his brothers. I honestly love both of these guys. So it's a tough call. But I just think Embiid ceiling was a little higher. But I could be burned by the injury thing. You're right. All right, next one. Ja versus LaMelo.
Don't have to think about this one a ton. Give me Ja. As much as I've enjoyed LaMelo and understanding his game and all that different stuff, there's still some LaMelo fuck-ups I could do without. There's still some late-game stuff with him. Like, he had 5 fouls, and he got, like, real physical the other night with a guy before the break right at half court. It was just stupid. Like, he got pushed, and then he decided to foul. And then then there was that other comeback where they benched him for the last 8 minutes, which I give LaMelo a lot of credit. He was fully engaged, was fired up for his teammates as they had this massive comeback. That was a different game. But whenever I turn them on, I'll still notice a couple fuck ups with him, which is only me pointing out the reason why I'm just going with Ja. Where I think Ja now, a few years into the league, and that's it. That's really the difference. LaMelo, a couple more years in the league, he may look like Ja. He's going to have more size. The landing for LaMelo, I'm not holding my breath every time the way I am with Ja, where I'm constantly afraid his legs are going to fall off because he's just so ferocious with everything. But I'll go Ja right now because I think he's a little steadier as the one of what's a really good team too in Memphis.
Back-to-back rookie of the years, I think, right? I think both those guys. Melo's a little bigger, better shooter. I'll hear the case for LaMelo, but I'm gonna go with Ja too. I worry about the fuck it. I'm just gonna take it to the hole every time and throw ambition to the wind. But it's hard to not. It's hard to take anybody over Ja, honestly, right now. And like, LaMelo's great and all that, but like, I'll side with Ja just because like I think that dude has, not that LaMelo doesn't have the star potential, but Ja, the stuff that Ja does is literally jaw dropping, and his team is nasty. So I'll go there. All right, next one. This is kind of like a theory, in my theory about like Mobley and taking, I'd always side with like the wing / ball handler guard in a draft before taking it big if all things are equal. So I want to test this with Evan Mobley. So I'll go, since you picked Ja, since we both picked Ja, why don't we do this? Evan Mobley versus Ja next 5 years.
Ja.
Yeah, I agree. Where's the line there then? Like what about LaMelo? If I said Mobley, LaMelo.
I'd probably say Mobley. No, I would say Mobley. Yeah, I don't like Mobley still does shit every single night where I'm like, wait, what did he just do? And then I rewind it. I would say, as far as being the number one of a team offensively, the game, as you've pointed out, and we've talked about this, it's why Cade went number one. It's why when I asked a bunch of front offices right before it, I was like, look, it comes down to it, Cade or Evan, and every one of them picked Cade. They go, the way our game is played, it's a Cade Cunningham league. And it's true. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying maybe you pivot back the other way and give Mobley some looks because he can turn and face or whatever. I would say there's still, if I had to be a little critical of Mobley, there's still a little choppiness sometimes when I see him getting into his offense, or when it's like, okay, this is closed off, so now let me think about what I want to do. But then there's other moments where he like jab steps left, pivots back, spin, dunks on everybody in traffic, and you go, holy shit. And then he goes back down to the other end and reads the pick and roll perfectly and jumps the passing lane, and then he's helping you lead a break. So I don't even like being remotely critical of Mobley, but on that one with LaMelo, yeah, the more I'm talking about it out loud, Mobley.
Well, speaking of Cade, let's do this one. This is fun. This is 3 guys. Last 3 number 1 picks. Zion, Anthony Edwards, Cade, next 5 years.
Anthony Edwards. Because it's back to that mentality thing. I like Cade. I defend Cade. Zion's probably my single favorite player to watch in the league last year, but until further notice, once we understand what the hell's actually going on down there, which I'm telling you right now, Pelicans fans, or even Pelican media members, this is Zion drafted off of the Ben Simmons, James Harden bullshit, the Kyrie bullshit. He was able to hang in the back, and because we're still talking about somebody with an injury, although we don't really know, I'm not suggesting he's not hurt, we just don't know because he has not been in communication with the people that he needs to be in communication with. As this story builds and Zion, if he continues to not play and then also is wondering where his max rookie extension is, you will now be at the front of the line of the new drama story in the NBA, unless it's replaced by a bigger player in a bigger market. But Zion has been able to avoid a lot of the negativity that may be coming his way and has already started to trickle out the last week because he was drafting behind these other bigger stories in bigger markets with bigger names.
I was thinking about the Zion thing in the context of like Elway and Eli Manning, and whether a guy would ever do that in the NBA, or whether they could do that in the NBA. Like if Zion, like could going back in time, would Zion just be like, "Hey, I don't want to play here. Like trade the pick." Because what are we doing? Like we're 3 years in. He's played 85 games. Yeah, he's been hurt, but we talk about the mentality. Like I don't know. Like would he be playing more games if he was playing with the Knicks? Probably. Why wouldn't, if he didn't want to go there originally, why not just be like, I don't want to go? Or are like owners in the league like so afraid that would happen because it would like totally ruin small markets and everybody would be up in arms? I'm just interested in like why that has never happened really.
It happened with Steve Francis. He didn't want to go to Vancouver.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it worked.
But like somebody as big as Zion.
Yeah. I mean, look, there was the Kobe Lakers deal too, but somebody still could have taken Kobe earlier. And that was always the Nets thing, where apparently the Nets were just like, if you take him, he's never playing. He's going to go to Italy or whatever. So, yeah, it's a good question because I'd imagine it'll happen again at some point. But it's going to be really weird when Zion's like, where's my rookie extension? And he's dealing with one of the cheaper franchises when it comes to ownership in the NBA. They may be the ones. And by the way, they can wait it all out and say, hey, we don't need to give you this a year early, just like Phoenix and Ayton. The difference is Ayton played and they just came off a finals appearance. All right, next one.
All right, 3 more really quick. Luka versus Giannis.
Close, tough. Giannis is everything I would want in a personality as the face of my franchise. So I will go Giannis. Everything.
This is, people are going to be having this debate for a while. I would go Giannis too, even though like Luka, I go
better defensively.
Shoot,
yeah.
I mean, but the only thing is like, who do you trust with the ball? And at the end of a game, who do you trust with the ball in their hands? And like the answer is Luka. So I kind of feel like I should go Luka in that situation. Like, I think you can get away with some of Luka's like lackluster defense, whereas like, do I think like, a lot of things fell Giannis's way last year. Happy he won the title, but let's be honest, like there were injuries and things like that, and like I'm just
it's a very good point, Ceruti, because when you think about ball side, trying to figure out like how you're going to play the pick and roll, and like, all right, Luka gives me more options than Giannis does. Like just because Giannis won last year, this is kind of my Durant Giannis thing where I go, okay, but in what world prior to the playoff success, which I guess is part of it, but if we're just talking like basketball players standing next to the basketball player, and if you saw Durant and Giannis like playing in pickup games separately and you didn't know who they were, I don't know how you'd ever say like, oh, that Giannis guy is more talented than that Durant guy. I don't even know how you would get to that. And honestly, the only people that argue are from Milwaukee. So, all right, next one.
All right, 2 more. SGA, Jaylen Brown.
I thought I was going to go Jaylen here. SGA's younger. His efficiency stats have been terrific. It's sort of a weird deal there in Oklahoma City. He hasn't played since the end of January this year because of the ankle. Last year with the plantar thing, I think they basically just shut him down to make sure that tank was in effect. I even was a little thrown off with SGA because I thought he was a little scared in the playoffs in that 7-game loss in the first round of Houston, which is fine. You know, young guy, new experience. He didn't look comfortable to me. I don't know if that's part of him or just the fact that he was young and 21 and out there and all that. So I'm pointing it out, but I'm not predicting that's who he's going to be the rest of his time. So I think Jaylen, maybe the confidence part of it that way, but I can't get past the SGA drive numbers. He's led the NBA in drives per game each of the last 2 seasons. He's at like 50% on those. He gets to the free throw line a ton. He just has this way that he moves. And I've seen him live a couple times. When the first thing when I saw him live, I'm like, oh, this guy's just, what the fuck? This is amazing. The way he moves, and you just can't really do much with it. He is relentless with it. And I think it's actually very, very rare. So his drive numbers and the way he's done it, despite the fact he's on a bad team and he's allowed to just ISO and drive the entire time, the thing is it actually works with him more so than these other guys that think they can do it and then they can't. It's a very rude awakening in the NBA. So I'll go SGA.
I go SGA too. Last one. Bam versus Ayton.
Don't have to think about it much. Bam.
Yeah.
I just think he can do so much more for you offensively. And I like Ayton. I do. But look, he's kind of the guy now with Miami. He really is. I mean, Butler's probably going to take some of those closing shots, but Bam, you can do so many different things with Bam. You can run your offense through Bam. And defensively, you know, he can get out and switch, although, you know, Ayton can do some of that stuff too, which is what I really like about Ayton, is a big that can close with small lineups. But that one wasn't that tough for me. I think it's Bam. Yeah, sound off in the comments. Let us know.